All right, welcome to episode number 3. I'm Dave,
I'm Kristen.
and today we are going to be living the Murphy's Law of entrepreneurship, where we had the best laid plans, and we are a little less structured than we would like for going into the episode. But we're here, we're showing up, we're doing the work, and that's 90% of it. I was saying to Kristen before we jumped on here that if you guys are on YouTube and you see me like really squinty, I had an eye appointment, and these lights are way more bright than they would be normally. So if I look more weird than I usually do, that's why.
We're both in great shape today because I did not get a solid night's sleep because I have a teething 1-year-old.
Lovely. Yeah. So this was aside from the 1-year-old, what's going on in your world last 2 weeks?
So I feel like last week I was able to accomplish a lot. It definitely was like little tasks, like things for my Shopify website, some of the background stuff, doing some research, understanding how I kind of want to set that up, because crazy enough, Shopify is its own old ecosystem, which I'm learning very fast. And then this week, it seems like I can't seem to do anything, but that might be teething / like my own, I don't even know what, to be honest. I'm looking back going, I don't know how we got to Thursday and I haven't really accomplished anything other than a little bit of knitting. I mean, I've accomplished stuff. I need to like look at it that way. I have continued to work on my sample for my pattern that I'm writing. And then I've kind of done a little bit here and there that haven't really accumulated to a full check mark of like having something completed, but it's there. I have to give it its gratitude. It's weight. So yeah. What about you?
Plugging away on video editing and trying a new transcription tool, getting used to that, seeing the pros and cons of it. So maybe a later episode I could do a one-off thing on the tools. So if anybody's interested, hit me up online or drop a comment.
Speaking of tools, I did do that. Now you're reminding me. This is my sleep deprived. I was using SEMrush social posting tool and it has yet to work. Not that I'm not trying to like bag on the tool. I just like things have not gone right, and I'm sure I know some of it's user error. I'm sure. I hope, because that would make it easier.
I love that tool for social analytics, but I haven't ever used it for posting things just because of the penalty that Facebook puts on you. And so I just do everything natively, which is kind of obnoxious. But
well, I'm looking to see if Instagram, since it's obviously owned by Meta, like do you get as penalized on Instagram as you do as Facebook? Because I know for a fact about Facebook. I've seen it in real life when I worked at a couple of my past jobs. But I'm interested about the Instagram part, but I have yet to execute it that way. So we'll see what happens.
I've been using Creator Studio, and it's limited features, unless if you don't do it via Instagram, on your phone. And it's fine. There's some optimizations, but it's like anything. There's always going to be something you could do slightly better. But it's good enough for now. And the only other thing with me is any of the astute viewers will notice that I got a new background. Have a new studio shelf. Let's see what direction. There we go. Got a new shelf, so some more storage. I'm working on redoing the studio a bit. So
nice. Plugging
away on that. So I guess we'll jump into what we had planned for today. I'm going to let you introduce it since it was your idea.
I feel like it originally was your idea, but I might have co-opted it. So
whoever says it last is who wins, right?
Or the loudest? I don't know.
Well, we can go into the metaphysics of business politics if you want.
Oh my God, I don't know that that's a good use of anyone's time, though. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about was like the definitions of business definitions, marketing definitions in particular. and how in our current digital age, especially when it comes to digital marketing, I think there's so many ways that you can talk about one particular thing, and we use different vocabulary for it, that it ends up being mind-boggling and frustrating at times, especially for people who don't have a marketing background or don't have like a business background. And for us to talk about that in particular, how like when you're trying to learn from someone else and they keep calling something an email campaign, and you're like, I do newsletters or e-blasts or whatever from a generation or from that you want terminology you want to use. How is that different? Like, how is that the same? And what level of, this is gonna be a real fun one, corporate jargon, digital maturity are you at, where you are actually like, you're not in a phase where you're going to have a full drip email campaign. You're going to have an e-blast or a newsletter because of where you're at currently. Like, and then translating those to your business. So for us to just kind of, I don't know, we can probably jump into some examples like that, or other things of, this is where my brain's getting fuzzy. I'm just like, oh man, I need more sleep.
Yeah, no, I think there are some really common ones. I know when like 10 years ago, when I was self-teaching on the marketing side, right? I was the musician. I knew I needed to get stuff out. I was like, okay, I'd heard of copy editing, but what does that mean? Or copywriting.
Yes.
I know copywriting in the legal sense, but not in the business world. What does all this mean? So yeah, leveraging the different platforms and seeing how people used it, how people talked about it. And it really depends on what sort of marketer you want to be, right? I think that's the one thing where you talk about the digital maturity, is once you have a certain level of experience, you know how you want to niche down and you know where your skill sets are. So I think for the sake of this conversation, let's focus in on somebody who hasn't necessarily, matured into what they're good at, right?
Absolutely.
Because there are definitely people who do email things really, really well, and that really fits their personality. There's other people,
and their business,
right?
The branding of their business. And I think to your point of keeping this in a conversation where someone's not necessarily digitally mature, or they're just starting out and they don't necessarily know what their brand voice is yet, or what their branding feel or whatever is going to be. You still have to start with something, right? You can't just be like, okay. I think I used to get into this. I would like read all about these things, right? Like, okay, I need a business plan. I need all of these vocabulary words. Like, I need them to all in place to run my business, right? And then I would have my branding voice, the colors, the logo, the business plan, and then I would not do anything because I was like, I just did all this work and I have nothing to show for it. So it's almost like you could build it as you go and just evolve your voice. There's nothing wrong with that. Evolve your learnings, your vocabulary.
Right. Yeah, and I think there is a bell curve too, because as your business grows and as your business evolves, you end up using more and more of that jargon.
Yes.
One, because it's safe and legal will approve it. Two, you have an out when what you say is so generic, nobody knows what you're talking about.
Well, that's a fun one.
Yeah, let's not get into that.
No, let's drive it back to like the startups.
So yeah, I think for me, let's talk about, copywriting, SEO. I think, as we've talked about,
thank you for bringing that up.
What kind of platform are you using? Well, the platforms relate to, the tools or the ecosystems you play in, right? So YouTube is a platform. Adobe web hosting, or IBM web hosting, or any of those types of things are platforms, right? Shopify is a platform. Yeah. So then one that's commonly misunderstood is channels, right? Especially when you get into like Google Analytics and you start seeing, okay, how's my performance? You're going to run into, okay, what's your channel performance? Well, that just means the various platforms that are sending things over to you, right? So you have a social media bucket, you have your organic bucket,
So we have to talk about owned versus not owned. I think this is like if you own your own website, right? Like that's your domain, that's your territory. I feel like you are one of the biggest proponents of this too. When we've talked about this, like if you are setting up your entire business to be just on Instagram or just on Facebook, that is fine to start. And that is valid. And there's a lot of reasons why you'd want to do that. But there are also at some point when you hit at some point, you're going to want to go, I need to own this. I mean, case in point, when Facebook and Instagram went out and people could not communicate or run their businesses,
right?
You need to have your owned media, your own platform, and then the channels that come into it that you're directing to it.
Yeah. So, for anybody who's not familiar with this idea of the different media types, right? Typically there are 3 different media types. So there's the owned, which is things that you own. Digitally, it's typically your website and, any kind of, any kind of like brochures or anything like that you would have with that. Then you have your earned media, which is it's typically the PR stuff, right? People are talking about you because of the things that you do. And that's, worth a certain dollar amount of ad spend and yada, yada, yada. Right.
I think we see that one a lot nowadays. Sorry to tangent on this. Also not sorry. In Instagram, when you see companies send influencers their products and like they're writing that off as like, this is a spend to try to get earned media, even though I'm not paying these people to talk about my product. I'm hoping that they're going to like it and talk about it anyways.
Right. Yeah. So okay, I'm going to put a pin on that one and we're going to come back to it, right?
Fair enough.
Throw out even more jargon in our definition episode. So you have the owned, the earned, and then the final one is the paid media. So what's your advertising, whether it's Facebook, Google ads, display ads, billboards. Yeah, you wrap a bus with your face on it. Any of the park benches that insurance agents and realtors put their faces on, any of that kind of stuff. The modern web stuff is a really interesting thing, and this might be something that would be worth a debate, somewhere. I typically slot in my mind the influencer piece right in between the earned and the paid, because on the one hand, there are some influencers who will talk about your stuff because they absolutely love it, regardless of whether or not you're paying for it, right? So that would be the earned. But then if you're paying them to be a spokesperson for you, that is very much paid media, right?
Where would you put collabs?
Collaborations, that would be it depends on how you execute it, right?
The nuances.
So the other thing to throw in there is, a lot of times, and a lot of the different, Web 2 influencers that you'll see, right?
Brian, what does Web 2 mean again?
I'll get back to that. You get the web. So you have like Brian Clark from Copy Blogger, Joe Polizzi from Content Marketing Institute, now the Tilt, right? Those kind of guys. You'll see them often say, especially Joe Polizzi, don't build your house on rented land, right? Yes. And what he means by that is put in all of the effort in having the email newsletter list that you own, right? You own the relationship. You're not dependent on the algorithm or the platform like, YouTube or Facebook to continually send people your way, or like we've seen with Facebook and anything that Facebook owns, they will lure you in and then they'll change the rules of the game on you and
get you to spend money.
Yeah. And then, so that promise where you're like, oh, I built out my business page and this is great. And oh, now I'm only getting 1% of the, 10,000 people that like my stuff.
We could do a whole episode on Facebook itself. And I could tell you all of the things that I've learned of how everything is revolve around them trying to get you to spend money with them for ads. That's it.
Because they have to go to the shareholders to then say this is doing this, and so I'm a big fan of saying you have the three main media types, but then there's this sort of like fourth stepchild one, which is rented land. That way you can, the organic side of social media, which some people like to argue is dead. That organic earn stuff, that is very much that rented land, right? But then social media is also very much paid media, because you're, boosting your posts on Facebook. You have sponsored reels on, Instagram, or I think, as of this recording, I think TikTok and YouTube are probably the only ones where you get any kind of organic reach still, but it's very much algorithm dependent.
Totally.
And how well are you good at optimizing for the robots?
I might make a case for Instagram on that as well. Based on a few different things. One being hashtags. I still very much think that Instagram is reliant on hashtags in their algorithm as well.
Okay, so circling back to the Web 2 thing, which you asked, right?
You always bring this up. I always ask you. You always tell me, and I always forget.
Well, and so it is sort of that gotcha kind of a question, right? So if this is one of those things where people will comment or email in like, you guys are totally wrong. So the way that I think of it, right? So you have Web 1, which was very much email newsletters, forums. This is kind of like pre-Google, right? Well, and then
this pre-Vine.
Oh God, yes. Yes.
I had to throw that in there to show my age. Sorry.
Yeah. So if we get into the sort of history of it, right, you have early to mid 90s, the internet becomes like a thing where the early adopters are using it. Around 1997, you have the introduction of Google. I think it was 95, 94 for Yahoo. They were the kind of the first big one in the US.
You're a nerd.
I cannot remember important things in my life, but I can remember these things. I don't know why.
It's what's important. Truly important.
I've also had this in a couple of my public speaking presentations.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
So, so you have Web 1, which is really, like people who are interested around a topic, they engage in a forum, right? Because you're not going to talk about model airplanes unless you're interested in model airplanes and you seek out that group, right? Then Web 2 really becomes this like reach this sort of community. You have your own platform, right? Where if I build it, they will come, kind of a thing, right? That was the promise of Google and Facebook early on. And then now we're kind of in a thing where a lot of influencers are saying that we're transitioning to Web 3, which, okay, early adopters, maybe, right? So like Gary Vaynerchuk is doing a lot with it.
Early adopter, what's the it in that sentence?
So Web 3 is more of this NFT, basically creating your own economy around your content rather than.
I'm not gonna lie, that stuff doesn't interest me.
Right. Well, it's funny because like I listen to it just to keep myself educated of it, and I'm like,
for sure,
how is this any different than like band fan clubs from way back when, right? Like Kiss Army in the 70s, or
I'm sure everyone listening to this.
Metallica had a Met club that you could, mail a check in to get your annual subscription, and
it's almost like Patreon. Like what you're talking about, the bands, is like the first version of Patreon. Now there's Patreon, and then there's going to be a future version of Patreon.
So, well, it's also kind of like if you create your own economy for it, And there are a lot of resources. I'm by no means an expert in this. I'm just, willing to say what I've learned thus far, and it very well may be wrong.
I mean, I don't think anybody can predict the future.
No. And if they can, they're wrong. You shouldn't listen to them.
I was going to say, if they can, they should buy a lottery ticket, but you're right. They're wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really around this idea of we're heading back to the community function,
Yes.
right? So we're going back to people are interested in this particular topic. They're helping each other out. But then the thing about Web3 as it stands now is that with this idea of crypto and NFTs and anything else, you basically get rewarded for the more you interact within that community. And as more people interact within that community, the value of it increases. So it ends up being kind of like stock valuations of a particular community within its own economy, right? So it's not just the content and the services and whatever else, but it's everyone's experience with it and the value that's created from that experience.
Yeah. Okay. So sans the value and like evaluation type piece, there is this crafting website, and I'm not going to list it because I actually think it's horrific what they're doing. And I don't think they're US based. So like there are a lot of crafters in various areas that are producing content or patterns or whatever, and people who purchase them. So a random person who purchased them from an appropriate venue, then posts that on this other website and lets it up for free for everybody else. So it's essentially like copyright infringement or IP infringement, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. So it's interesting how like that's like the nefarious route of kind of what you're talking about, and they get like coins and stuff for doing it. The more actions you take in this website, you get like more credits, and then you can use those credits to do other things. I don't know exactly how it works because like I said, I think it's horrific. But it's interesting how we could probably go into a whole conversation about how there's good things and bad things with the same exact tools, i.e. Facebook.
Right. And I think in order to bring it to something that some people are familiar with, and it's not a perfect one-to-one, but it's like loyalty points on, or air miles, right? I mean, so those things that you subscribe to, those only have value within the ecosystem that they are in, right? You can't, unless the company has set it up where you can cash out, your air miles for a certain amount, you're stuck. That you've earned 20,000 miles and you have nothing to spend them on. Cool. So they don't mean anything because you don't have anything to spend them on, right? So like I said, I am by no means an expert. You go research your own thing. I think I'm interested in the kind of blockchain element of it only in the fact of how it relates to smart contracts, right?
Smart contracts.
So one of the interesting things that some people have talked about, or some people have actually implemented, is like if you buy a ticket to an event via one of these platforms.
Is that the official terminology, is a smart contract this? Because I feel like we talked about this before, but I don't remember hearing smart contract.
Well, so this is where it gets all nuancy, and I hesitate to say it, but you have in the old normal world, right, you would have a contract that is on paper and it says you have to abide by these things, yada yada yada, right? But that document lives where, right? It's not accessible via all these other things. Like I said, the thing that's interesting to me, especially as a musician and a performer, or somebody who's interested in live events and all of those things, one of the things that people are using these smart contracts for is that if it's on the blockchain, you cannot edit it, right? So baked into it is if you can buy this ticket now, you can buy access to it, but then if you resell it, then the artist, the promoter, the whoever who released the ticket gets a percentage of the secondary market So then you basically, as an artist, you're no longer screwed by the robots, buying out your entire performance, because if it gets resold to, a human being, you're still getting, a piece of that. And then you're actually playing to a venue full of people instead of, seeing on your sheet that, hey, I think I sold out Tulsa. And then you get there and it's, 40% capacity. Right.
Applies to knitting too with patterns.
Mm-hmm.
You sell a pattern and someone actually wants to share it with their friend. Instead of sharing, they have to force it to sell it. And then as a pattern maker, you get some of those dividends. Like it makes sense actually paying the creator for their work.
And so one of the things that like Brian Clark and Joe Polizzi did, I mean, they just announced they're doing a sort of a creator economy live event, down in Arizona. But as part of that, they sold a limited number of tickets via this kind of model where you get lifetime access to any event that they put on, that shares this thing. You'll get special VIP access. You'll get all these other extra perks. And, if you can't make it, you have the ability to, sell your access for a year or whatever to somebody else. And then they can go. And yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of opportunity there, but it is so Wild West right now.
Yeah.
With any of that it's
corporate buzzword.
Yeah. There's no regulations around crypto or NFTs or anything like that. So, don't do anything that you're not willing to lose completely. Right.
Yeah. I think this is all super interesting. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have to keep an eye out. I mean, not just for entrepreneurship, I think in general, like my husband and I kind of joke like adapt or die. And that's a really extreme, quick way to be like, things are going to change. It is in our best interest to adapt to the world to at least to some degree so that we can continue to make money and survive.
Yeah, I say it all the time too.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a lot of like entrepreneurs' mindset too, is like, I will adapt because I have to do this. There's no other option.
Right.
But I think I find that stuff's really interesting. And I have a lot of hope for the future that there will be some really positive changes because of that. I know that there's some negative drawbacks. I'm not going to go into them right now, but I do have to admit, I really love the web 2.0 that we're in right now, where people are starting to shift back toward community, especially because we're in a pandemic. We don't have community. Like literally, I think that's why we started this, is we were like, we want to hold ourselves accountable for the stuff that we're doing. We're on these journeys that are separate, but somehow weirdly parallel sometimes and really like similar.
Yeah.
And we want to discuss it. And why not open it up to other people so that they can come along on the ride with us and maybe learn something, or maybe just not feel alone.
Right.
And this is why I think I actually love this aspect of my casting knit stuff is community. It is not, and I'm not looking to like purely capitalize on community. I'm actually looking to enjoy it as well as see if I can like make something of it for myself.
And that was definitely one of the reasons I started the Beginning Guitar Online, was very much this, okay, I sidestepped to do this marketing thing, to figure out how that works to better promote the stuff that I write and create. And then, life happens and whatever else. But I realized that some of the best memories I had was the local guitar shop that, got sold and knocked down. And, you could go in and you could just chat about really nerdy stuff that nobody should care about.
Speak out on your niche.
Yeah, exactly. And there are still there's still good mom and pop shops around, but you really have to search for them, and you really have to go out of your way for them now. If you're just like walking around a Guitar Center, it doesn't have the same vibe, right? Yeah. And so it really was this, I'm gonna put myself back out there just so that I can be a part of the guitar community, because that's what I like and that's what I want to be around. And I don't mind a half an hour debate on whether or not the Beatles or the Rolling Stones are better. I think there's a clear answer to that, but
We
you know,
can't
some
talk
people
about
don't.
that.
You know, but yeah, to your point, you know, niche down and geek out on it, and uh don't be afraid of that. Enjoy that,
I
right?
think that's actually really well placed in this conversation, because like in everyone's individual niche, there's gonna be a whole nother culture and textbook definitions of things that you're going to encounter and learn
Mhm.
if you don't already know, or you already inherently know them because if it's your specialty. And embracing that culture, and that community is just it's it's literally something I feel like you have to do. And if you don't enjoy that, like, that is not your business model. Your
Right.
business model is very something very different. And I think that's, maybe this is a really good point too. Like, that's more of our business models. So like, if that's not something that you're vibing with, we totally get it. But if you are, like, stay here with us because we have more coming on that theme. But
Yeah, and I think so there is an interesting piece there that is an assumption that is just
mhm,
baked in, right? And I think you see that with a lot of stuff online of, you know, turn your hobbies into your dream job. Like,
oh yeah,
no, there's a lot of work there. You know, and some hobbies are just you can't monetize them. I'm
and they
sorry. There's
should be
just not a big
hobbies.
enough
Okay,
markets for that.
yes, thank you. I don't even care about the market sometimes, but like, as millennials, we were brought up, when we graduated the height of recession, everyone's like, okay, you need to make a living, you need to survive. So we're all like, okay, how can, I've been told all my life I need to go to college to get a good job, but that didn't happen. And then I was also told that if I love what I do, I'll never work a day in my life. I'm going to make my hobby my job.
Yep.
And then you ruin your hobby for yourself.
Yep.
There is
Yep.
nothing wrong with keeping your hobby as your hobby.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. And then finding a different business for your entrepreneurship.
Well,
Meaning
and I
like,
think that's, yeah, one of the key things that we talk about in terms of, you know, if you're going to market something successfully, you have to segment your audience, right? One of the ways that you do that is through your word choice, right? The language that you use to signal that
yeah.
you're a part of a particular set of people and a
Mhm.
particular, you know, headspace. So yeah, I mean, you see that with some of the, you know, if you're in live streaming and, you know, your t-shirt is all Avengers and, you know, you have a bunch of Legos behind you, that is a very particular person, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
that's great. I'm totally down with Legos and Avenger movies. Would I publicly display all those things? No, no,
Yeah.
because I'm not that far into it. But I don't hate on it, right? Find your
Right.
own thing and be about it. You know, like the amps in the background for me and the producer decks that, you know, that says something about me and what I enjoy doing. And, you know, for me, I'm in this room too much each day, but it's fine because I am around the things that I identify with and that make me happy. And that's
So you're bringing up a really great point right now. And I have to do a plug because I really, really enjoy this woman. She goes by the Tidy Rebel on Instagram. Highly
mm,
recommend checking her out. She talks about, her whole thing is like, your space should be a reflection of what you value.
mm,
And like, we're getting on a whole different tangent, but she's amazing. Check her out. So to your point of like, if it makes you happy and if it aligns with your values, absolutely should be around you. But you're right, it does also signal things. And then how you talk about your community and how you talk about your niche also signals things, which almost comes full circle to what we started talking about with copywriting.
mhm,
Like, it's insane how the level of detail, nuance, or terminologies that you use when you talk about your product, your company, your business, whatever, to your community, um, really says a lot. There is always reading between the lines.
mhm. Well, and I think that's the thing where for us, we're not about the get rich quick piece of it,
That doesn't
right?
exist.
Like you can, by all means, you can start a Shopify account, find some drop shippers, and
That was one of my
have
questions when I set
an
it up.
e-commerce platform, on whatever you want over a weekend. Does that mean you will be successful and you will have a really nice small business retail shop? Probably not, right? Because if you're in it for the money, you're not going to do the work when it doesn't, when it doesn't work, right?
Well, that marketing is like literally everything. I mean, I know we're both marketers, we come from a marketing background, but like marketing your product, if people don't know that you have a product or what its value prop is, or what there's another buzzword or definition.
Eventually we're going to have to define something, right? And not just talk about talking.
I mean, isn't that what we're here for? Mastermind, to talk about talking. So your value proposition, if you actually, how you bring value to your customer. And then I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
So the thing that triggered for me with what you were talking about was, at least you have to market your products, and that's definitely one thing, right?
Yes.
Build the awareness, put in the work, but then even for the new job roles or the new sort of go-to-market stuff with content creators, is you have to market your marketing, right? If your live stream is a promotion of the e-commerce stuff that you have, well, then you have to promote your live stream in order to promote the products that you're going to sell, right? Because without an audience, why do you even have a live stream, right?
Yeah, who's watching it? You can be live.
Right.
Can anybody hear it?
But if you show up consistently, then yeah, they will show up, but you have to do the work, and it's there, right? So yeah. So okay, some of the things that let's tie up some loose ends, right? So we have define value prop. Go.
I just did that, didn't I?
No.
So your unique value that you bring to your customer with your product or services or content, why should they care about you? Why should they want the thing that you have, if it's a product?
Sure.
I love that you're testing me.
The differences between products and services. Go.
Product is a physical good. Services is a I can't define it without using the word service. Is something you do for someone. You could have digital goods too, which, by the way, is what I have. So it's a digital product.
Same. Yeah. Then you'll often hear too, knowledge products, right? Ebooks.
Oh yeah.
Videos,
I would still call that a digital product though, personally.
Webinars. Yeah, and there's that
though.
larger bucket, right? So if you have a hierarchy of things, right, that's the big bucket. Should we make a game out of this? Should we do a lightning round?
Yeah, let's try.
Okay.
It's gonna be interesting with my brain today with no sleep, but let's try this.
And this is off the top of my head too. So all right. Define content marketing.
Marketing. Right. Oh my God. This is way harder when it's like, I feel the pressure. Marketing with value and substance instead of just telling people what the product is. Educating. Gonna go with that.
Right. So yeah, for me, it's very much, and I'll link out to Content Marketing Institute, who actually has the actual definition of it.
Yes.
But it's meeting the educational needs of your customers or your audience, right? It's building the audience, monetizing it in some way, and addressing their informational needs, right? It's sort of the blend between media company and product companies, and you see that blend happening more and more, where the lines between either one of them is really loose now over the last 10 or so years, right? So a good example of that is Red Bull Media House. What's more profitable for that parent company? Is it actually the product of Red Bull, or is it the media company where they have
I didn't even know Red Bull had a
the
media
sports.
house.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess it lines up. I've seen Red Bull like sports, and they're like how they. I guess I assume that they had product placement and logo placement and stuff.
No, I mean it's a whole operation, right? Another really good example of it would be Cleveland Clinic or Mayo Clinic, right? The content marketing strategies that they have, where it's you have, if you have cancer, you want very specific, questions answered that may or may not feel appropriate in, with your doctor, which, that's a problem with the relationship with the doctor at that point. But but if you're like me, you're in the thing and then they're like, okay, cool, you feel good. I'm like, yeah. And then you walk out the door and you think of 20 more questions.
I mean, that's exactly that. They saw that problem. They were like, everybody's doing this.
Right.
Let's put it out and have her, and let's not let WebMD take over.
Right. Yeah. Let's get information that is actually correct. And not dengue fever.
Speaking from my personal experience.
Everything you search is like yellow fever. No.
Really? Everything I search just says cancer.
I banned WebMD like 6 years now. Well, it'd be 16 years ago.
Maybe that's why it was all the fevers and not cancer, because now it's cancer.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We've gotten old enough that it's, a solvable thing to, you're dying.
Yes, exactly. I feel like that is the perfect summary.
Yay. Wow. This took a dark turn. Okay.
It did.
Okay. So we have content marketing. I think let's go with an analytical bend now. So you have traffic source.
Yes. Where people's visitors are coming from to your website typically.
Traffic medium.
How's that different?
According to Google Analytics, it is.
This is how stale I am on my GA lingo. Oh.
So you have the actual source of it, right? YouTube.
Yeah.
Whatever. Then
Google.
You have the medium of it, which is social, organic, paid.
Oh. Social, I feel like shouldn't fit into that. I feel like it should go organic or paid. But that's just me. What do I know? I didn't create a thing.
Well, you can custom tag everything so that your analytics says what you want it to. And then you can have all of the problems that all the major companies have with their reportings.
Perfect for casting nits. Okay, we talked about SEO, and for those people that do not know anything about SEO, I think this might be our biggest trip up as we continue to have episodes. We are both have an SEO background. I think we need to do SEO, and then we need to talk about the various little SEO parts that as a quick brief rundown, and then we can go into more detail in the future if we would like to.
Sure.
SEO.
Yeah, so SEO being search engine optimization, and it is the main thing that you will hear us talking about is optimizing for the SERP, SERP, which is a search engine results page. So when you actually type something in, all the stuff that pops up
on the first page, not on page 8,
unless you're on a mobile now, which is infinite scroll. That was an update, which is advantageous for smaller organizations now, because you don't have to be on the first page to get some real results now, because if people are just going to infinitely scroll, they'll find a name that they want and then go. So the SERP is made up of 16 different content types, 3 of which are paid. So you have the search ads, which is the paid search piece, which there is a separation of church and state when it comes to paid versus organic search, and that is something that is very strict. So one of the myths that I always have to debunk with either previous clients or bosses during the anchor gig is what you do with paid media does not influence directly your search engine results, your organic search engine results, right? There are two
not
separate
a one-to-one.
things. Yeah. So
But if your goal is to show up on page one, you can pay for it.
you can, and you can pay out the wazoo for it, and that's cool if you have that kind of money.
And this is why when you're starting up your own thing, learning about the organic side of it is really enlightening. And there are things you can do, and there are tools that are already in place, or you can plug into your website to simplify things for you. And it will literally tell you what to do. You don't have to really go too far into understanding too much about SEO in order to do it.
Well, and yeah, organic used to be a really big thing. I mean, that was where all the opportunity was when blogging was the main, in vogue kind of thing for people, right? Because you could just make a really good post and you would be ranked. Now there's been enough updates where you have to earn it again, right? But this is where, I've said in previous things, then last year when I did a guest lecture at a local university here, I was like, SEO work is no longer just a channel in your marketing mix. It is the sum of everything that you are doing. And so it is a really good way for you to know what your digital health is, whether or not you're an e-commerce platform, whether or not you're, a content marketing or content creator. If you are doing things well, then you will be rewarded with a lot of the traffic. Now, it's not like it used to be. You do have to work at it, and you do have to do more things correctly than you used to have to. But it is, how well are you filling out the metadata on your website? And a lot of platforms that you subscribe to, whether it's a WordPress platform website or Squarespace, Wix, whatever, a lot of them have things that will let you walk you through this, right? So what's the title of the page? The meta description that you type in, which is the summary of the page, shows up on that SERP, right? And is important for click-throughs, but doesn't help you actually rank. But click-through rate helps you rank, right? So filling out all of those things and making sure that before you hit publish, all of those things are filled out, right? All of those things are important, and who you get links from, how you develop your site. Is your site fast? Is it not? So there's these sort of three buckets of SEO. You have the behind the scenes stuff, right? Inside your site. Then you have the on-page front end of it all. So that's the copy that you have, the videos, the images, all the page load speed, all of that kind of stuff, which is what most people think of for a website anyway. Then you have all the off-site optimizations. So this is going to be more important for different business types, right? If you actually have a storefront or a physical location, off-site optimization is going to be really important for you to be in Google Maps to have the local results that way. If you're a restaurant or a food truck, having those ratings and reviews on Yelp or OpenTable or any of those platforms are going to be important, and then aggregating those back onto your website. Name, address, phone number is going to be really important for your local SEO stuff too. And making sure that all of those things say the same thing. And
we could go into and do probably 4 episodes on SEO, I feel like. So
I was thinking about that actually, where I'm like, okay, to have some backup episodes. I bet I could redo that presentation to be 4 episodes.
We could totally do that. But before we sign off, to hold ourselves accountable, what's your plan for this week? What are you working
on? New video is up this evening, so I'll be doing that. So finalizing all the promotional stuff and building out all the UTMs and all of that. I am trying to get ahead of the game so that I can have a week where I'm not doing video production every night. um, that's about it.
That's a lot though.
Yeah, it is. I'm coming to appreciate it a bit, but I'm also thinking of sort of, what are probably once a year, I'll do some sort of like big release, I'm thinking. Right. So I'm still playing around with it, but what would it look like, because I have all the transcripts from the videos? Well, can I take those transcripts from the lesson videos that we've done, and are they good enough to maybe do an ebook or something with it, right? And repurpose the content so that you get as much mileage out of it as possible. So thinking through those things, and that's about it right now. How are you?
I am going to try to knit up to the armpit on my pattern by next week. And I am going to do some more research on some of my Shopify website things. In particular, since I do have a digital product, I need to set up some sort of like funding thing. And you can attach a bank account, but they also have something called like a Shopify something account. And my gut reaction was like, don't do this. And then I'm like, maybe this is actually not bad. So I need to do some more research on it and think critically about if it's the right move for me at this point. And I've been in a posting challenge this month that is a very awesome fiber world, knitting world related challenge. And I missed yesterday because of my difficulties with my posting tool. So I need to get back on that today. So I'm going to hopefully post 6 times by next time, roughly.
Is this an all month thing, or is it like a 2-week challenge?
It's every day of the month, and I missed yesterday. And I'm mad at myself for that. But at the same time, I'm like, catch him tomorrow. But today's kind of an important one. I really like the one for today. It's posting everything that you created last year. So I have an entire list of everything that I've created, and I want to put pictures up of everything, just have it all in one spot and be like, look what I did. On the same vein as last episode.
That would be.
And I think that's probably going to be my list because it's a lot, and I hope I'll get more done, but I'm going to try to be realistic as well so that I can still work out and spend time with my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I discovered some new muscles last night, and I was definitely feeling that this morning.
Brain muscles or like workout?
No,
muscles?
like with the workout stuff, because I let that slip over the holidays, like
that's right.
Like many people. So it's like, all right, go do it, get it done.
It's good for your mental health and your.
But then I downloaded a new plugin recently for guitar stuff, and I have yet to be able to really do a deep dive in it. So I might.
Which is fun for you, right? Like that's a fun thing, not a work thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, new sounds are inspiring in the sort of the guitar world, where it's like as part of, you think of practice as like, I'm gonna learn this Bach piece. It's like, nah.
That sounds boring as hell.
Exactly. And largely
that's why I didn't stick with my instrument. Or any of them.
But finding your tone is sort of a big step in the guitar journey, because you have to find the sound that will accurately represent you as a player. Totally. So playing around with some of the plugins and finalizing some songs. So
not different than branding.
Exactly. Exactly. So, all right. Well, if you have made it this far with us, God bless you. Thank you.
And if you have other questions about definitions or certain words that you're like, what the hell? I'm seeing this in different ways. Please feel free to ask us. We'd love the challenge, the brain challenge.
Yeah, hit us up Instagram, YouTube, do it down below. Podcast, hit us up anywhere. Rate and review, comment, please. It helps us. Do all that YouTube stuff, like share, ring the bell, subscribe, all that. It'll help grow the channel and get more people involved, ultimately, so that more of us can help each other on this path. So thank you, and we will see you soon.
Bye, y'all.